Give me some checks on the live stream.
Did you actually set up record so that it's working locally on your machine?
I set up, I'm in record. I mean,
Okay,
all right.
I don't know.
Pause or stop recording is what it says here, so I'm
All right.
recording.
Well, we'll find out.
Twitter's on.
Facebook's on.
Facebook, we're streaming to Facebook.
And Twitter.
Twitter, we're streaming to
I
Twitter.
believe LinkedIn is on.
LinkedIn's on. All right, we're streaming to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. About to start the Gillmor gang on this Sunday in December.
Go ahead, honey.
Okay. Sorry. All right, and why is there that? Okay. All right. Mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor gang. It's Sunday. It's
December.
it's the World Cup has completed. We can't talk about it because one of our members kept falling asleep, and therefore,
Don't out him.
oh, I absolutely.
It was early.
It's the only thing I can say about it, so I'm going to blame it on him.
It was
Where-
early on the West Coast.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, we got up.
Okay.
I got up too. I just kept dozing off on the couch.
There you go.
I bet you woke up in the last 10 minutes.
No, I actually I woke up at halftime and said, "This I can't deal with this."
All right.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about, guys?
Well, you got
Nifties.
I'll do it on my time.
Oh,
Are we skipping the lower third introductions this week?
Yeah, maybe.
you never know.
True.
Well, you know what? She can always slip them in when we do whenever we talk at any length, right?
That's true. That's
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
good.
She says.
So keep
Yeah.
going.
Let's talk about the NFTs. Let's talk about the crazy NFT story.
The thing about the World Cup is the narrative that's coming out is that it's one of the few times where the whole world is doing the same thing and engaged in the same thing, and it kind of prefigures nicer times when we were all aligned and in the game together as opposed to fighting each other. And given that it's happening in Qatar and it was fairly controversial, that's a fairly major achievement, I would say.
They did a story just broke that said that that there were thousands of empty seats. I thought I saw them when they showed the aerial, but I couldn't see them on the lower shots. But that's an embarrassment if that's true.
Well, it isn't because people don't buy tickets. It's because the ticket sales process, I've actually been through it because I've been to a World Cup. FIFA, basically tries to maximize revenue by forcing people to buy, in my case, it was 7 tickets. You follow a team or you follow a stadium. That's your choice. If you follow a stadium, you see all games in that stadium. If you follow a team, you see all games of that team. And if the team gets knocked out, you follow the people that beat them. So you get tickets, and it's like $20,000, and you get tickets all the way through to the final, or all the way through to the last game in the stadium you follow. So buying a single ticket for a single game is almost impossible.
But it's from what you're describing, it sounds as though it's conceivable that you could miss the final.
You cannot miss the final if you pay the 20,000. You get the seat. But if your team's out, you might not show up.
So we've got 3 people who haven't said anything. So can you say something? I don't want to introduce you. I just want to have a lower third capability.
I think
Okay, I'll say something. It's getting cold here in the state of Washington, and
Michael, you're being heckled.
I hear that. I hear that. It's probably a sled dog.
Mush.
Hello.
Go ahead.
No, that's all I got. Hello.
Oh,
Make it slower. Do it in slow-mo.
Hello.
There you go. Plenty of time.
Is that the lower third?
just the opposite. I think time is actually speeding up. I was thinking about this today, and it seems like Elon Musk has done to himself in just a few months everything that Donald Trump did to himself in a few years. So that's really time compression.
Well, reputationally maybe, but he's still in charge of a number of companies, and Trump is only in charge of Trump World.
Yeah, and Trump's going to get a bunch of bad news tomorrow.
And just to continue with the previous theme, Musk was at the World Cup final.
Yes, there are lots of pictures of him standing next to Jared Kushner of all people.
Oh,
Well, I guess it remains to be seen whether or not he issues any trading cards.
Otherwise known as Nifty.
This morning they announced a new policy, which is to ban people linking to their presence on alternate sites. So
I noticed this morning on my iOS Twitter app that they've now integrated all the different things you can do into the UI. So, for example, you can start a space. You can also add multiple tweets to a single list of tweets before you post a thread of tweets. So at the product level, honestly, trying to be as uncontroversial as possible, I think it's getting really good.
So
I don't think that adding multiple tweets is a new feature. I've had that for years.
No, but not in a single action. You had to reply to your own ones and things and put one and two.
No, I don't know. My client has a little plus sign. So if you make a tweet, you can click the plus sign and add another tweet under it, and then when you get them all together, you post them.
Well, it's possibly the case that I am totally senile and have never noticed this feature and only noticed it this morning. I think there's a high likelihood that that's the case, but it felt good to me.
Is that Twitter Blue? Is that the new Twitter Blue, the paid for application?
I did pay the $8 for Twitter Blue, and if you're planning to do that, do it on a website of Twitter, not in the app, because it's $3 more if you do it in the app. But I did pay for it mainly for editing and deleting tweets is my reason. But I don't think that's related to the spaces thing is in my. I've never seen that before inside a tweet. When you're posting a tweet.
So
and let me change what I just said. That feature was not in the iOS app, but it was in the website. So if you tweeted from the website, you had that little plus button, so you could put up a whole thread of tweets before posting.
Right.
The legacy blue checks stayed; they didn't go away, which I found interesting.
I did notice that the links, going back to the previous point, when I link to anything, when I click a link that goes to Mastodon, I get a choice to make. It pops up an interstitial and says, "We think this site is spammy. Are you sure you want to go there?" And then I say yes, and then I go there. But it doesn't just go there.
There's an interesting thing on the Substack that I haven't played with yet, but it pops up with a Twitter bar. And I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with that. I've ignored it so far, but I found that interesting.
Well, yes, Substack has now started. It knows who follows me and who I follow on Twitter. And this morning it suggested a newsletter to me because the author is someone either who I follow or they follow me on Twitter. And it suggested to me I might want to look at their newsletter. So they're definitely leveraging metadata.
But it's going to be a difficult, when review goes away. We've had this conversation, Keith. When review goes away, all of a sudden there's a new way. You have to create a new way to make your Substack do what it did when you were compiling everything in review and cutting it, pasting it, and dropping it over. Can't
Yeah.
do that anymore.
So we know this on the show. I think we've talked about it before, but my regime involves 3 apps: Feedly, Review, and Substack. Feedly is my store of articles. Review is where I used to organize them into order and how they look and everything. And then I would copy and paste that into Substack. Review is closing down on January 21st. It's just gone, which is amazing that they would acquire it and then just close it down. It means they don't really have a clue, or the old regime anyway, doesn't have a clue about the positive impact of integrating newsletters with Twitter. That said, there are rumors that Musk is interested in buying Substack.
Yes, that's been rumored. He may have also done some kind of deal with them, because the prohibited sites, you can't promote Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Post, or Nostr on Twitter. They will remove that content, but
So
he hasn't listed Substack as one of the prohibited sites.
Does that include the QR codes? Are they trapping out for that? Because I heard that they were using QR codes to get around the word Mastodon or something else. So
I don't know that yet. I'm sure. I bet it will. I mean, this is like many of these battles. It's a escalation and counter escalation.
The QR code is ultimately just words anyway. You just have to read it, and then you can see what it says. But I to be honest, I don't really understand who's driving that or what the goal is. It seems like if Musk is driving that, it seems like a huge mistake, because his whole narrative about the town square, it doesn't really survive those kind of decisions.
Well, he killed that with the purge he did Thursday night.
I was okay with that, because they were publishing his details of his airplane, precise details. I was okay with wrapping them over the knuckles for a week. I didn't consider that a free speech issue at all. Didn't mean to say that word, but it just seemed like they were naughty, really badly naughty, in a way that could threaten life. So you don't really want that. So I was okay with that. I think this is different. This seems to be more substantive turf wars, if you like.
Well, I don't imagine that was really an assassination coordinates.
So it's not a good look for Twitter to, if you mention Facebook, or is it just if you link to Facebook? Because we used to do that.
Well, what's happened is over the past few weeks, there's a growing exodus, and people are saying, find me on, at whatever, and he's trying to kill that. So a lot of people who are going to Post or Mastodon are saying, here's where to find me. I'm leaving Twitter, or I'm staying here, but I'm also over here. So he's trying to prevent people from driving traffic to other sites.
I'm just trying to decide what I'm going to do. I'm not going to move away from it yet. I don't see that happening.
I mean, that goes against the entire basis of the web. The whole web was built up and promoted by people linking to other people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Google was built on inbound links. I mean, if
just to kind of contextualize, this outbound links thing is not new. I pitched Jerry Yang as long ago as 1997 on the value of outbound links, and Yahoo at that time refused to enable outbound links or monetize them. Their whole goal was to keep you in Yahoo. The same is true of Instagram. You can't put outbound links in Instagram. I don't think you can put them in TikTok. It's a pretty common thing to not have outbound links.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And Twitter, of all places, the whole point is outbound links. So it would be stupid on the face of it. They can monetize them like Google does. When you click on an outbound link on Google, Google gets paid. Mostly, not always, but a lot of the time. So outbound links are a huge source of revenue.
Well,
Yeah.
It's funny with
is that beyond Google's ad business?
No, it's just the ad. Well, actually,
that's what the ad
no, it
business
is beyond it. It is beyond it, because if you click on a non-paid outbound link and that site that you go to has Google ads on, which most do, they'll get paid indirectly.
I see.
They basically monetize everything that gets done everywhere they can, which is what Twitter should do. It's an obvious thing. If you're a platform, you try to get paid every time you benefit the network.
If you put an outbound link on an Instagram, it'll appear, but it won't work.
Oh, you'll get the text. Yeah, can't click on it. The only place you can put it where you can click on it is in your profile, and that's so you can do one.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a waste.
So and that is the Facebook mentality. So if Twitter was to adopt the Facebook mentality, that would be a disaster. Even within Facebook and LinkedIn, by the way, if you've ever tried to share an article, a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post somewhere else, it always goes to LinkedIn. It never goes to the article on the web.
But you can decide that you want to open it up in a browser.
You have to go through a few hoops. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
It's a real pain.
And it's not the spirit of the internet. I agree with you, Michael. This is anti-internet thinking, and it's ridiculous. They're shooting themselves in the foot because they're limiting their revenues as well. And if Twitter goes that way, I think it's, on the face of it, a really bad decision.
Well, alrighty then.
Brent, how are you using Twitter on your network, and do any of these things that Twitter's imposing affect you right now?
No,
Thank you.
I mean, quite honestly, I stopped paying attention to Twitter years ago. I only really use it just to push stuff out. I mean, and I'm not really using it to direct monetization or anything. I find Twitter to be really annoying, or maybe it's, I don't know if it's the Twitter is annoying or the constant trying to figure out what to do with Twitter to make somebody else money annoying. It's just getting a little to be too much. I mean, quite honestly, the most important social network for me, I would put Twitter maybe 4th or 5th. I don't know. I know it's not a sexy thing to say, but LinkedIn and then YouTube are like really the two biggest for me, and then probably Facebook after that.
Yeah,
I
agree.
LinkedIn is just really, I
So
don't know.
are you answering that in terms of promoting your work, or in terms of just as a user? What do you like to? Where do you like to browse?
For me, it's both. The way I look at Twitter just to see what's trending. You'll never see me in a Twitter argument. You'll never see me debating people. What's the point? I mean, I don't get it. And so year after year, Twitter becomes less and less interesting / important to me. Maybe it'll change with whatever dude does, but he hasn't done anything yet that makes me look, oh wow, Twitter, I need to take a new look. No,
I do the same thing that you do, Brent. I use it as a way to increase my reach, but I don't engage.
And I don't even think it does that much for me for reach. I mean, I'll post stuff on LinkedIn and get way more interaction. And I've got 3 times the amount of followers on Twitter as I do connections on LinkedIn. But it's not even close to the level of engagement I get when I post something on LinkedIn versus something on Twitter. It's just like not even in the ball game anymore. So I find Twitter to be just whatever. I mean, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it anymore.
LinkedIn is so civilized.
Yeah, but it's also full of people trying to sell you stuff.
Oh, and
You know
Twitter,
what?
are you kidding me? Twitter it's sell you in terms of come see my stuff, come watch my stuff. I mean, it's the same. It's just not a direct monetization, but it's all about attention. It's all about trying to get your attention, and Twitter it just doesn't come close to doing that for me anymore. I don't want to share my attention with stuff I see on Twitter for the most part, unless there's something trending that's important. When I see like a company, in my industry, and I said, wow, why are they trending? Because it's not like Facebook or Amazon. It's, a company in the CRM space. Why are they trending? And then that becomes really interesting. But generally speaking, or maybe if there's something in the world, like a big world thing happening. But if it's not either of those things, I'm really not interested, because I don't care what dude says, or what he had for breakfast or why he's doing this. It's just annoying at this point.
The special counsel that's the guy from The Hague has a phony Twitter space or place that I've gone to a number of times, and I've scratched my head going, wow, is this really this guy? Turns out it's not. So,
I had this experience this week with Twitter where Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy, has been quite active this week. Mainly trying to calm down the excitement around ChatGPT and have a more serious conversation about the stage things are at. So what I find is Twitter's easily the best place to learn about what other people are thinking and doing. If you engage with them, they'll respond. It's a fantastic place to form relationships. I can tell you, when Mike Arrington started TechCrunch, he went on social media and became friends with people really by commenting on their stuff, and built himself into the ecosystem in such a way that he himself then became a reference point. I think it's super hard to do that on LinkedIn or Facebook. I think Twitter's really good for that. And it's good for learning, and it's good for engagement.
You think Twitter's still good for that, Keith? You think that Arrington could do that today? Has he done that today?
Well, obviously he's doing something different, but yes, he does. If you look at his tweets today, they're all about his investments and people associated with the ecosystem he works in. It's super effective. And I actually don't think there's anything better. But then you have to, a lot depends on who you are. Do you have a reason for engaging? Learning's a good reason we probably all should have. Obviously, getting known in an ecosystem, you only have that if you have a goal in mind. So that's a bit different. But I do think it's very good.
I think that's a good use case. And if we were to really look at the percentage of people who actually do that versus the people who are like, I'm trying to find a way to promote myself, or I'm trying to find a way to, get into people's wallets. That scenario is going to far outclass I want to learn. I want to, build real relationships. And I think that's why I'm probably more sour on Twitter than maybe, you guys are. Because most of what I see is not the use case that you outlaid there, Keith.
But by the way, Mike didn't use Twitter because it wasn't around then, but he did the same with blogs. He went into the comments of blogs. It's a very similar kind of methodology.
Yeah. Once again, the way that he uses it to learn, to take in, he not as much to self-promote or brand build, which is, to me, that's what it really drives me kind of crazy with a lot of this stuff. I don't want to have somebody just reach out to me just because. I mean, LinkedIn, you're right. LinkedIn, the in-mail messages I get from LinkedIn, ridiculous. Like, people, you could tell that they've never spent not even looking at your profile to learn. They just want to reach out, and say, hi, I see. And then it's like almost like a mail merge. CRM Essentials is talking to some people I know. I thought you might be interested in this offering. What the hell? I'm not. I mean, why would you do that? Because you don't even spend any time really looking at the profile.
That pretty much happens on any open social media. Happens on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
When I was active posting to YouTube. I used to get email from people who said they liked my channel because some random thing that had nothing to do with what I was saying on the channel, but they were interested in some kind of business arrangement that would not benefit me as much as it would benefit them.
I think the distinction really is bad self-promotion versus self-promotion that doesn't even look like self-promotion. I mean, Mike was super good at not looking like he was self-promoting. He was just engaging. And the byproduct of engaging was people liked what they got back. And so there's like lead gen, clumsy marketing, and then there's engaging, where the end goal is that you benefit in some way from the engagement, which can't be every time, because if you look like you're trying to benefit every time, then you become clumsy and bad. So you have to give as much as you get back over time. And if you can use it that way, then I don't mind people having a selfish goal, as long as they're smart and interesting in pursuing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, most people aren't, and they ruin it for the guys who are, the people who are. And it turns out, look, you're Elon Musk. You don't have to do this stuff, that you can do it, and the things that you do, you can get away with. Other people try it, and it just comes off, ruin it for all the rest of the people who have to use this platform. And that's the kind of stuff. It just is irritating me so much that I just tune it out for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't really get to uptight about individual things that happen, or what's going to happen with Twitter next, because I could care less. If it goes away tomorrow, the sun's still going to come up. I'm still going to be a Rams fan. I'm still going to be doing most of this stuff. It just won't be that big a deal. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I do think, well, if you ask the question collectively, does the human race benefit from the existence of Twitter? And if it went away, would they recreate it in some other form due to the fact that it's doing something that is just inevitable? And I think of that as public engagement with like-minded people, or often opposite-minded people sometimes, but it's public engagement around whatever you want to publicly engage around. If Twitter went away tomorrow, I guarantee somebody would recreate that.
Well, people are recreating it now before it goes away.
Yeah, but it has to become, for it to work, it needs ubiquitousness, if that's a word.
Well, it's true, but Twitter wasn't ubiquitous when it was founded. It takes time to build an audience on a platform. But clearly there are people looking to provide alternatives to Twitter.
Yeah. But then, Michael, when it becomes ubiquitous, let's assume Twitter goes away, something becomes ubiquitous. The human race being what it is, you'll have many of the same characteristics that Twitter has.
I agree that dynamics will be the same. The question is, will they learn more? Will they learn from Twitter's failures or Twitter's suboptimal features to provide a better Twitter?
And I think the same question goes for Twitter. Will it learn? I think Musk thinks he has learned. I saw the Jack Dorsey mea culpa this week. I don't know if you all saw that, where he posted quite a long piece on his regrets. And they were all heartfelt and felt real as well, by the way. He basically, the core of it was, I gave in to advertisers and I stopped fighting what I believed in. And then I planned my exit. And so his support for Musk is that he thinks that he broke Twitter. And mainly it was to do with editorial oversight. He doesn't believe that moderation is a good thing, unless it's on the extremes of legality and so on.
Unless he's doing it.
Well, he did do it, but his whole thing was he regrets having done it. And it opened up the Pandora's box where, once you agree to moderate, you kind of have to moderate everything.
Right.
I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, if you look at, by the way, I'm with you, Brent. I've stopped like the other guy, I am not even looking at the owner of Twitter's tweets anymore. I'm just looking at the actual product and saying, do I like it or not? If you looked at his tweets, you're going to make a decision on the product based on liking or disliking him, and that's kind of irrelevant in a way.
Well, I've used the filter feature in the app to filter out his mentions. So I'm not only not looking at his tweets, I'm not looking at people who are talking about his tweets.
Is that the good filter feature?
It's a good filter, yes.
By the way, I would do the same for Kara Swisher and Casey Newton at the moment. To me, they are the most obnoxious trolls you could possibly imagine. And they're wasting my energy and time when I read them, because all they care about is piling on. There's no value in what they're saying.
Yeah, that's a shame.
There's no value in anyone saying anything to Elon Musk, because he is he believes his own press, or his former press, when he was God and the savior of the planet through electric vehicles, and in case that fails, escaping the planet through rockets.
Sounds like an NFT to me.
Hey, Keith, you kind of bring up an interesting point. Not that you're just bringing one up for the first time. I'm just saying it's an interesting point around Casey Newton and Kara Swisher. Do you think as they get to be more, visible, that they have to try to figure out ways to, keep people looking at them in a certain way? And do you think that they are concentrating or writing differently now than they were years ago, because their profile is being raised and they like their profile, they like going on TV or whatever, and now they maybe part of what they're doing is putting things into their writing to get the eyeballs, to get the attention?
I don't know Casey really well enough to judge. In the Kara's case, I think the answer is probably no. I think she just passionately believes what she's saying, and she's got herself into a bit of a bubble where her emotions are driving what she writes. But I don't think it's manipulative. I don't think it's clickbait or attention bait. I think it's just what she thinks. Casey, I don't know. I just don't know him well enough.
Frank, you said yes in the comments. Why? I'm just curious. You're on mute.
It just seems to me that she has gone, my opinion, has gone from somebody that I absolutely had to listen to and absolutely went to. And then she started to rub me the wrong way. And that's her personality, I guess. And I think that personality is part of the emotional impact that she's laying into everything that she's writing. So I think that she is trying hard to make sure that whatever she does, do, and say will attract the most attention.
Is that just a sign of the times, or is that what we're all? I mean, it seems like,
Going on. It's not an unusual thing. It's just, honestly, I've been turned off by it. I'm not turned off by my way of doing it, but I'm turned off by some other people's way of doing it.
I like her snarkiness, but I too, she's gone too far to me. It's like she's on a mission. It's a bit like Joe Scarborough on MSNBC.
Oh.
Mika. I mean, I used to love Morning Joe, and now it feels like a rant.
It's crazy. He doesn't stop.
He always opens the show with a rant. And I think the rant is almost always the same rant.
It is, yeah.
It
is
it's incredibly repetitive. In fact, that whole network is incredibly repetitive. There is very little new content there. The hosts and the regular guests say the same thing every time I tune in.
I think you're right. I've really started to have problems with watching that network. I will say that today I spent a lot of time watching CNN. I thought it was very interesting that Fareed Zakaria did a whole segment on ChatGPT, which was really something. I was like surprised that he did that, because it made the people that were in my house at the time stop and go, "What's that?" And I go, "Well, obviously you don't read my newsletter, but listen to what he has to say."
Well, I'm not surprised that he covered ChatGPT. It's
Not surprised, but
it's the trending thing. I mean,
yeah.
there was a boundary crossed where AI was something kind of obscure and something way out in the future that nobody really had to pay attention to suddenly something that lots of people have taken notice of because it's become so accessible because of ChatGPT being something that anyone can use because of the natural language ability to give it prompts and have it respond to you in natural language. People are saying,
but is there, I haven't noticed, and I could be just way off base on this, but is there a way to operate it like with voice so that you can say something to it, like write me an intro to such and such?
Not yet, but clearly
Yeah.
that's the next step, is to link it
Yeah.
to a voice agent. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see where this is going in a number of directions.
I think there's ways to get it to do it anyway.
Voice agents, if you look at Siri or Alexa or Google, they just seem very limited, and they don't seem to have progressed very much since they've been out. And they've been out for a half a decade or more. Alexa is not smarter today than it was when I first got it in the house. It's just more annoying. But you can see that if you can link a voice agent to a real natural language ability, you have a whole new thing.
Yeah.
By the way, you can already do it, guys. You just have, if you turn on the accessibility controls on your Mac or your Windows machine, so that voice input becomes a thing, that your machine can do voice to text. So you just put your cursor in the box. Speak.
Yeah, you can work around it and make a thing to make it work, I guess. Easy.
Well, look,
But
a lot of these things that we do, I think I know on LinkedIn and Facebook, probably on Twitter, it's pretty much real-time transcriptions going on. I mean, it's like the words are barely out of your mouth and you're seeing it cross the screen. I thought for a second there, I saw the words cross the screen before it actually came out of my mouth once. I don't think I saw that right, but it feels like if you already have that capability and then you're connecting that to AI and then running, real-time analysis and then being able to do next best actions or respond in real time, this stuff is already about to happen.
I used it this week for some research. I was trying to, I'm raising money for Signal Rank next year, and I was trying to find people who specialize in this particular niche called systematic investing. It's basically data-driven investing. And I asked it who were the top thinkers in that space, and it gave me a whole thing. And then I said, can you give me the top 20? It gave me a whole list of people. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, it saved me probably 5 hours work. And even if it's a bit wrong, it's good enough.
Did you actually analyze the results and figure out if it was good or not?
I could eyeball them because this is not a niche I understand. So I'm learning about it. Some names came up that I did know, and I knew it wasn't quite right. They were venture capitalists who use the word systematic every now and then, but it's not the same area of interest. It's just a coincidence that they use the same word. So it did definitely not, it wasn't 100% perfect, but it was probably about 80% good.
Yeah. My fear for all this stuff is once people understand what's going on and now they're beginning to see, well, if you use, we've been doing this forever, you use certain words, in traditional old school SEO, that you had a much more likelihood of getting your stuff to the top. So now people are going to figure out, well, I guess we need to say this stuff more and more. And because all these AI systems are going to basically just analyze everything. And I don't know how they weight things. I don't know what the algorithms are. But if you just use certain words and you don't know a thing about what those words actually mean, you could eventually show up on a ChatGPT.
I don't think it works that way because of the architecture. A lot of search is based on keywords. So SEO works by using words. This analysis works in context. So just a list of words is not going to trick it. It's looking at sentence structure, it's looking at paragraph structure, and it's weighting things based on what comes before and what comes after, so that it's drawing a different kind of inference.
No, I guess the point I was making is once people kind of get an understanding of maybe not the complete inner workings of the black box, but enough to get a sense for what's going on, that changes it's going to change the results, because people are going to start trying to, speak to whatever they think, the little glimpses into the black box they may have. And now that kind of muddies up the purity or the correctness of the actual results you get.
I saw a post that points to a whole new area of using this technology. Imagine you use this kind of technology not over a global data set, but the data set of things that you do. So imagine you just query the books you've read or the emails that you have. You can ask for things that would ordinarily take a lot of queries and searches, something that you vaguely remember, but you can't quite remember where or when you saw it. Suddenly you have a way of looking into that data set in a very conversational way and getting the information out.
So it already has an API. Quite a few people have built things that are similar to what you just said, Michael. It has an API, and you can give it a total different set of data and ask it to do its thing on top of that data. And so there's quite a few specialist things being built in niches of human knowledge that are pretty similar to the generic experience, but on that data set. So it's already possible to start training it.
I just asked it to.
It's not just training it on a specialty. I mean, it's train it on yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. You're a specialty. You become a specialty, and you can do that. And that, if you go back in time, there were various attempts to do it, like Autonomy, the company that sold to HP and then was said to be cheating, did that. And Fast, there was a company called Fast that did private search engines just for you. So there's been a fairly large number of attempts, but this, I agree with you, this looks the most promising approach that I've seen.
I just asked it to give me some SEO words for the World Cup final, and I got a whole page of them.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to kind of go in a little different direction, ask the question about Apple. Do you think it's, I don't know if it's a good or bad or concerning thing that it's starting to look like Apple is moving towards, in addition to all the other stuff they do, becoming like a pretty major advertising company? I mean, being able to kind of play along with Facebook and Google and Amazon as an advertiser platform.
Should we do a vote, yes and no, first?
Yeah, that's up to the guy with the gang after his name. So
No, it's not.
Well, here's what I don't know yet. I think there's a danger for Apple in going down that path, but what I'm curious to find out is how they're going to do it. They have so much of their brand built around privacy and protecting personal data. As they do more and more advertising, are they going to do it within that brand promise, or are they going to break that brand promise? And I think it's too early to know.
Well, the core is privacy. So if you put Brent's question in the context of privacy, there's two kinds of privacy, real privacy and no privacy. And then once you get into no privacy, there's two kinds of no privacy. There's global no privacy driven by cookies, cross-site cookies. And then there's single site privacy driven by what they know about you that you do with them. Apple's in that camp. It isn't a privacy zealot, although it does anonymize. So in that sense it is, but it wants to target you inside its environment based admittedly on an anonymized version of you, but it's trying to deliver things to you that it learns you might be interested in based on what you do with it. And it doesn't use third-party cookies to achieve that, or cross-site stuff. It doesn't follow you around the internet. So I think the distinction is really there's three groups: absolute privacy, no advertising, no targeting; privacy, which is impinged on due to cross-site tracking; and then privacy that is impinged on only by what you do with that entity. The last one is a toss-up whether you're okay with it or not. I think different people would take different views. I'm okay with it personally. I'm even somewhat okay with cross-site if it was better. It just isn't very good at targeting.
Well, you could ask Apple, you could ask ChatGPT about it. I just got a huge story about Apple's recently announcing its entry into the world of advertising.
Yeah,
that it just wrote for me. It's like 300. It's like 300 words. I could just read it, and that'd be my position.
By the way,
But
you can tell it. You can tell it to do 2,000 words, and it'll do a longer version.
Beautiful, because that helps.
But I mean, you know, I think instinctively everyone. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, because Steve definitely is not in this camp. Everyone prefers a world with less, if not no, advertising. That said, that isn't the world. So in a world of advertising, good advertising is better than bad advertising. And good advertising, it can't really happen unless the advertiser knows you in some way, in quotes.
Well, I was going to say good advertising. I'm guessing it depends on what perspective you're coming from. If you're a consumer, good advertising probably means something a little different than if you're the one doing the advertising.
I've been, you probably do this. Many of you may have done this. I've been an advertising buyer. It is super hard to target accurately and get results. It's really hard.
You know, there's the famous John Wanamaker line, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, but I can't tell which half. But targeting has been imprecise, but it's been possible. I mean, if you pick up a golf magazine or Today's Bride magazine or a photography magazine, you know that you're going to be targeted by your interest in that category. There was a time when you had Life and Look, which were in general not very targeted advertising, but beyond that, it's always been the case, even on television and in print, that advertisers are trying to segment by interest, by income, by location. And it's just that we've become much more precise in being able to target in the world of the interactive internet.
I've tried to do startups a few times. I think Steve knows this about me, but when I first came to the US in '96, I had a few ideas in my head, and one of them was called World ID. I spoke to Esther Dyson about it at the time, and World ID was a self-opted into identity where you could, in metadata, describe your interests and block or allow various brands to send you stuff. And basically, it was putting the individual in charge of the gateway to their screen in a way. And I never did it. I did real names instead, and then I dropped it. It still feels to me as if the network could support individual decision making when it comes to what to allow through and what not. And brands might even pay for your attention on the margin if you don't know about them, but they think you'll be interested. And you would have a kind of a different network economy that would arise from that. Whereas I think targeting is like the blunt instrument version of that.
All right, let me ask a different question. Is Apple big enough to change the advertising? Because are we in agreement that kind of the advertising business is a mess right now? It's doing more harm than good. So could Apple actually come in being who they are and being as big and kind of ubiquitous as they are, if they wanted to change it for the better, do you think Apple could? You know, do they have enough of what it takes to at least do something that moves away from where we are today in a more positive kind of direction?
I'm going to
No.
vote no, because that, as the comments Michael just said about Siri, and if you go and look at Apple search, they don't have the DNA for, you know, intelligent targeting. They're just not a search AI company. They're a packaged goods company, really, with in a sense. So Google don't have the desire to do what you just said. Apple don't have the capability. So it's going to be someone else.
And even if Apple does, they're going to do it just for a limited audience. You know, not everybody has Apple products. And if their advertising business is built within their ecosystem, it will affect their ecosystem. I don't think it will change the world.
I think John Wanamaker was the apotheosis of marketing, and he was the first one, as Michael correctly points out, that said half his marketing budget is wasted. I don't think you get better than that. I think it's, you know, the theory of large numbers obtains here, and I think despite all the razzle dazzle technology we can apply, we're still dealing with a business process that's participated in by a vendor that has some skin in the game and a customer that doesn't. And the customer will at best make logical decisions for emotional reasons. And I don't think you can catch that to a degree where you can make your marketing more effective than 50-50.
I would think that a company like Apple, if it decided it wanted to, it could and would, regardless of the fact that it's not in their current DNA.
Yeah, they can hire people, but look at companies. You know, companies are led from the top, and it's super hard to get the DNA at the top to enable different DNA at the bottom. It's just a human thing. It's very, very hard. And you know, if you look at the leadership team at Apple, they're really good product marketers. I mean, super good product marketers and really good technologists for the stuff they focus on. But they're, you know, and they're beginning to reach out, like Apple Card, the reported savings account they're about to launch with Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, by the way, has closed down their own neobank, which failed, and Apple's is succeeding. So they can go outside their DNA where they see revenue, and so I wouldn't rule it out, but it's really hard to do.
And let's remember that advertising is a complex world. It's not just advertising as one thing, because there's a whole journey that anyone takes, from being aware of a category to being aware of a brand, to having feelings about the brand, to being about to buy, to starting to make a buying decision. Some parts of this are pretty cut and dried. And one of the reasons Google succeeded so much is they found one particular part of this journey. I'm just about to buy something, and I want to find out where I can get it or who makes it. So when you're at that point in the decision-making process, you can get fairly precise. And Google did very well at that. But how do you generate favorable feelings toward a brand or a category? That's a whole lot vaguer, and it takes a different kind of investment and a different level of creative and different places of exposure.
Well, Amazon certainly has figured that out.
You know who figured it out is the Japanese chat app, whose name I'm blanking on right now. But what they did is they made brands create...
WeChat.
No, not WeChat. That's a Chinese one. The Japanese Line. It's called Line.
Line.
What Line did is they made all the brands become an account online. and they allowed users to follow the brand or not. And if you didn't follow the brand couldn't advertise to you. And so the users selected stuff they like if you're into Canon cameras or if you're into Apple computers, blah, blah, and only those people could advertise to you. And so the brands were forced to be good citizens seeking to get followers from people who love them.
Yes, but how do you get to the point that someone loves your brand? That's the hard part.
Yeah.
People have feelings about Nike, about Chanel, about Apple, about Mercedes, about Chevrolet. But how do you get to that point if you're just coming into the market?
Yeah. But there's something in that though, Michael. I mean, that you're right, that is the big problem. But you must admit that a consensual relationship between a consumer and a brand is very valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And if it's a non-consensual relationship, it can be the opposite.
Sure. I mean, once you're in the club, you can do things that you can't do from outside the club. Question is, how do you get into the club?
I think that's an offline, online marketing problem, which is a bit different than this privacy stuff. I mean, in other words, traditional marketing is probably not going to stop having the same challenges it's always had. I'm not a marketer, so what do I know? But it's my intuition.
By the way, on the topic of Apple learning new tricks, don't forget Apple TV Plus. They have gotten into the video film production world in a very savvy way. They have a number of series that I really love to watch.
No, it's spectacular, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not particularly impressed with the idea of the DNA argument. I think if you look at what Apple's done in the last 10 months in terms of services, it completely belies the notion that they don't have any skill online. It's just not true.
No, I'm more talking about the kind of data intelligence guts of advertising. I agree with you. I agree with what you just said in general, but they're going to have to buy that DNA in, right? It's like the self-driving car.
You also have to realize that DNA is at a different level than current skill sets. I once interviewed the general manager of Apple in Sweden. This was decades ago, and I said, Apple's brand is very much a Northern California kind of brand. How does that work in Sweden? Because the tone of Sweden is different from the tone of Cupertino. How do you do Apple in Sweden? And he said, well, the secret is that in Sweden, there are people who are closer to Apple's brand than others. So we attract the workers and the customers who are like Apple, even though the general context of Sweden is different. You can be Apple-ish in Sweden, you can be Apple-ish in Germany, you can be Apple-ish in Japan. And the DNA is at that deeper level. So if Apple goes into a new business, they will do it in an Apple-ish way. They will hire new skills, they'll acquire new companies, they'll get new engineers. But if they're going to succeed, they kind of have to Appleize them before they set them to work, or even before they hire them.
It's interesting. I back in the day when I was doing advertising and buying ad space, and before the internet became a huge thing, I decided that I was going to do all of the advertising with my entire budget for one thing, and only do it online. And I bought as much online stuff as I could buy, and I bought Facebook, and it was new. I bought websites, so I would buy all of the front pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times and the Chicago Tribune on their websites. And then we went back and tried to determine whether or not that ad buy was equal to or any better than an ad buy that I might have made that included traditional television and radio and outdoor, for example.
Who are you
And
doing
it
this
wasn't
for?
for NBC. And it was specifically for the Today Show, and it did very well. I guess the people who watch the Today Show are also looking at those websites and those, but this was very early on. It was very expensive. And as we see right now, there is becoming an equalization of traditional advertising costs against digital advertising costs. They cost about the same. It's really expensive to do it anyway, but it's now even more expensive than it was before.
You're reminding me of real names in Japan. We trialed this thing where an offline ad would have a keyword, and the call to action in the offline ad was type this keyword. And because real names was plugged into the browser, we could take a keyword and redirect it to a URL. And we knew, and every advertising medium had a different keyword. So we could measure exactly the offline conversion to online from the keyword. And that was like 1997.
Well, and that's about the same time. It's interestingly enough, those are the kinds of things that we were trying to experience and figure out back in 97 and 98.
You can't do that with URLs because you have to put extensions with a question mark and no one's going to type them in.
But the thing that we really liked was that there was almost an immediate gratification in terms of data that we got back. So I knew who was doing what, where they were doing it, how often they were doing it, whether they stopped and started something. It was for me in the very beginning. It was a fascinating experiment. It did very well. A lot of people at NBC were not very happy that I had spent $1 million for 3 days worth of advertising, but what the heck, it worked.
Yeah.
You know, they used to call that approach a roadblock, so
Yeah.
that wherever people tuned in or went online, they would see your ad.
Yeah.
I think the advertising world is so fragmented now that even though
It can't
it was
work.
expensive when you did it, it's astronomically expensive
Yes.
today. You can't
And I
possibly do a
don't,
roadblock.
and yes, I don't think you can do a roadblock that way anymore. You can determine specific things that you want a roadblock, but you're never going to have a real roadblock.
I mean, in the three network world, you could buy the news across all three networks, or buy a certain time slot across all three networks, and everybody would see your ad. That's impossible to do now.
But I did like one of the things that I did buy a piece of outdoor and I stuck it in front of CNN's building for about 30 days. That pissed everybody off. Ted Turner had to drive past it every morning. And I happen to know that he told his advertising guy to get that billboard down.
Do you know a guy called Ed Bennett, Frank?
Yeah.
Ed
Yes.
Bennett. So Ed Bennett was on my board at Real Names, and he told me the story of how he created the cable equivalent of what Michael just said the networks used to do. Because initially on cable, you had to buy each channel separately, and he created this single platform where you could buy the entire cable network from a single purchase. You're muted.
There's a name for that. I just don't remember what it was, but it turned out that you could go to that place and you could buy whatever cable channels you wanted, where you wanted to buy them. And that's how we ended up putting a whole bunch of ads for MSNBC on CNN. But you couldn't buy it on CNN, the actual CNN channel. You had to buy it on the head end. So wherever it was going through, that's where you bought it and that's where it got placed.
What does head end mean?
So CNN has its own advertising, but it also goes through local affiliates, and those local affiliates in that market is the head end. So you're actually
in the cable industry, the head end is the facility that sends the signal to the homes.
Yeah.
So all of the head ends have their own little advertising block. It's like in old television, you could buy a network ad or you could buy a local ad. You could buy something from an affiliate, not necessarily from the network. So a head end is your local cable originator.
Yeah.
And
So
by the way,
Spectrum or
So typically they have a little satellite dish outside the office, and they pull in all the signals from the satellites,
Yeah.
and then they process them and put on the conditional software that makes sure that you only tune in the ones you paid for, and then they send it out to your house.
Quite a few years ago, Google built the code to integrate in with all those head ends. So on Google AdSense now, you can buy video ads, and you can upload your original video ad, and you can buy markets. And if you pick, that window where the main channel's gone off and it's all advertorials, it's like ridiculously cheap, like $2 per 1,000 impressions to put video on TV, all from Google.
Yeah, that's why I think Google is so uniquely positioned to whatever the next version of advertising is. Google is in such an interesting position. They have YouTube, and there's people. I mean, I think if I had to break down my viewing time between traditional YouTube and YouTube TV, that's like the majority of my viewing time. And look who has control of both of those. And if you look at YouTube TV, like you guys are talking about, the local versus network, you see what happens on on YouTube TV when it goes to a commercial break. Sometimes you can see it's like, kind of a network base, but then sometimes it's like, you can tell it's local. And then sometimes they give you the opportunity to take like, do you want to skip this ad and go to a scenes of tranquility or something?
Zen.
Yeah, they're building in a whole other opportunity for them to monetize this thing. So you look at YouTube TV, you look at the ability for traditional YouTube for you to do like I do YouTube Premium, which allows me to skip all the ads for a price. I'm spending a good amount of and then I got Google the whatever they call Google Office. I'm spending a couple bucks a month to that for using Docs and Sheets. All of a sudden, Google, I'm doing a lot of money with Google, and then you look at what Apple's doing, and they're adding subscriptions and services and buying content. It seems like they may be backing away from the NFL Thursday night deal, whatever it was, but they've got their own content, live sports. And when you have live sports in like a regular television lineup of channels, you've got an opportunity to whatever, maybe even shape the next, whatever advertising 2.0 is. And I think that's why Google and Apple are really some interesting companies. Amazon, it's not kind of, but I don't know what's happening with Facebook though. Facebook,
not when YouTube TV is unbelievable the way it deals with sports and allows you to see the different things that you want to see. At your it's funny. My wife asked me this morning how much money I was spending on, and I said, not much. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Oh, I gotta go.
I'm doing $65 a month on YouTube TV, $11.99 on YouTube Premium, like $3 or $4 a month on Office. I mean, 3 years ago, I wasn't spending anything on YouTube other than the $2.99. Now look what's happening.
And I don't know, Keith, you can tell me I'm probably wrong to do this, but I'm actually paying for an American YouTube TV and for a European YouTube TV. I don't know that I need to do that.
I didn't know they had a European YouTube TV.
Well, it's English. I get a completely different set of stuff when I'm using my YouTube TV in the UK than when I VPN it to watch it in the US.
So when I've been in the UK, I couldn't even use it. It blocked me because I was in the UK. So they must have something new there.
It just forced me to have to buy it twice.
Does it have IT?
Let's go around the horn and pick up the table scraps of other things to talk about. Or
Nifties.
end the show.
Oh, what about you? TikTok, this legislation about either banning U.S. employees. I heard that one from having TikTok on the machine. And then the other one is banning TikTok from U.S. altogether. I can see the one, but I can't see the other one.
They've been saying that for a long time, but I think the idea that the government says if you're a government employee using a government device, you can't have it. I think that could happen.
I can see that one.
Yeah.
for reasons, but it also feels like there's real reasons, valid reasons, and then there's political reasons. And it feels like a lot of this is being driven by, politics versus just it makes good sense.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Dennis?
Steve, I got nothing.
Michael?
I'm very eager to see what the committee has to say tomorrow.
Yeah.
How so?
Oh, I want to know. It's the final episode of the series. You always have to tune into the finale.
Well,
I'm with Michael on that.
some of the TV series purport to be the final episode get canceled, in which case that's true, or they say to be continued, and then it's not true.
Well, it will be continued in other venues. I mean, this committee is coming to the end of its life. It's not going to be renewed by the Republican majority. Now, some of the work could be picked up by the Senate, and some of the work could be picked up by the Justice Department. So, it's like having the series bought up by another network.
Oh, it'll be a spinoff. It'll be a spinoff. It'll be why did the Capitol Police do so terribly? That'll be the spinoff committee in when the Republicans come in, and whatever else other fingers they can point that go in every direction but the actual cause.
Well, Brent's right on that. I mean, that's going to be the House spinoff. They're going to investigate the committee. You're reading that all the staff members are having to lawyer up and get ready for going through some things. So that will be part of the spinoff.
And will you be watching those shows?
I will not be watching them. No, I'll be reading summaries. Those shows will just be too painful to watch. I mean, I think we've all noticed this. The January 6th committee, compared to any other congressional committee hearing, has been refreshing because it's not a game of interference and point counterpoint. It's one narrative, very carefully crafted. Whereas most hearings are unwatchable because as soon as a Republican speaks, they try and generate talking points for Fox News, and as soon as a Democrat speaks, they try and get talking points and sound bites for MSNBC. It's like a courtroom with opposing attorneys trying to impeach the other witness. It just becomes a chore to watch.
Keith.
I'm just so glad that Argentina won the World Cup. No one said that.
Oh, Jesus.
No,
You idiot.
of course he could be lying. I'll never know until I watch the game.
Well, you know what, Michael? It won't matter. It was such a good game.
Okay,
You'll love it.
But you're
looking forward to loving it.
what do you mean it won't matter?
It won't matter. It won't matter that he knows.
The comment. I'm just, we've got Keith saying who won, and then you're saying it doesn't matter.
No, I'm saying to Michael, it doesn't matter that you now know who won because the game is very good to watch anyway.
Yeah,
that wasn't meant to be.
No sporting event in a replay where you know the outcome has the same value as a sporting event where you don't know the outcome until the last out or the last time period is over.
So Steve had it right.
That's what makes sports a betting proposition. That's what makes sports delicious to watch. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's true. There is pleasure to be derived from watching something where you know the ending, but it's a different kind of pleasure.
Yes.
Watching something where you don't know the ending.
You're right.
Steve was right. I'm an idiot. I had, by the way, for some reason, the penny hadn't dropped for me that Michael didn't want to know. So I wasn't doing that on purpose.
Of course not.
I mean, there are movies. I'm sure there are movies that all of us have watched again and again, and we not only know the ending, but we remember most of the dialogue. There's still pleasure in watching that.
Don Corleone died.
Different. There you go.
Actually, this game will
He's
give
the gun.
huge pleasure.
Yeah.
This game will give huge pleasure for years to come because my first World Cup was 1966 when I was 12 that England won. That I remember consciously. I've watched everyone ever since. This one is head and shoulders the best one ever.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, the whole
Yeah.
series. And I say that not as a fan, because now I'm a fan, but I wasn't before.
Speaking of endings, have any of you watched White Lotus?
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Are we going to kill that for everybody?
No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say a word, except that it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
The second season is better than the first.
It's different. I don't know if it's better.
Oh,
I like them both.
I liked it okay. The second season I liked a lot. Definitely better. What about Slow Horses? Anybody?
Love it.
That?
I was just going to say that,
No
Steve. I
spoilers,
love it.
please.
Yeah, it's just great. It's so good.
I got a spoiler for you. They get beaten by the fast horses.
By what?
Oh, yeah?
Oh. All right. Let's see. Michael, well, Frank, you just sort of Frank?
No. Anyway, a
I
couple
do
of
have a
things.
quick one.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go look for the trailer for the movie Barbie.
Oh, I posted it on my newsletter. Obviously, you haven't been reading my newsletter.
I'm sorry, I must have slipped through it.
Too many paywalls, but it's a great
Real?
movie.
No. You know what?
You keep
Most
saying
of it-
that.
Anyway, here you go. This is my homework right now. This is a ridiculous waste
You
of
got
money.
it upside down, but it's Elvis, right?
Yes, this is a ridiculous waste of money by the Directors Guild every year to send me literally 50 or 60 DVDs, most of which I'm not going to watch because I have to go pull my DVD player out of the ceiling. But that's the other thing I wanted to say was, do we think that Kevin McCarthy is going to be the speaker?
Yes.
Okay, that's one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Paul, raise your hand. Yes or no? Let's start with yes.
We have yes, no, or I don't know.
What's the vote? What's the? I missed
If you
the
have
question.
to,
Yes, for Kevin McCarthy being speaker, no for him.
all right.
not
So we
being
start
speaker.
with yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm
Yeah,
going to say yes.
Yeah, I have to say yes too, even though I don't want to.
Okay. Michael, did you vote?
No.
No.
Okay.
Abstaining.
I'm going to let the Republicans surprise me.
Okay. Brent, yes or no?
Present.
Yeah, present. That'll screw the vote.
But the real question is,
I don't know.
whoever is speaker, will they command a working majority?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And one final thing also, I have to say, the picture of the former guy's head on the Superman body, his head is too small. And those are the ugliest NFTs I have ever seen in my life.
And that's saying
Period.
something.
Oh my God, they're worse than the stuff that I would have done.
Have
But
you-
do you think he?
But I
doesn't he
read that
mean-
I read that he netted about $4 million from that garbage.
That's what I heard. But who bought them? The Arabs, the Saudis,
You know who bought them?
the
People who
Russians?
can't figure out how to open an NFT.
Exactly.
I think that it means that he's got two things on his agenda. The first is to make money, and the second is to not to go to jail. And being president is not one of them.
You get what you pay for.
Oh my God, that was a
By the
big
way,
announcement.
He calls them nifties now. That's what they said on Saturday Night Live. They're nifties.
Yeah, nifties.
Okay. Tina.
Well, I'd like to say happy birthday to Frank, who had his birthday this
Happy
week.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, Seb.
And today's birthday boy is Keith Richards.
Yes, it is.
79th
Was he about
birthday.
95?
Keith, he's alive. Who cares?
He looks about 95 or 100. I'm sorry.
But he's always looked at 95.
Yeah.
That leather really.
Actually, I was looking at some very old Rolling Stones videos the other day, and I actually couldn't recognize Keith Richards. He looked too good.
Wow. Oh, by the way, this is how you get merch for your stuff, Mr. Gillmor. We're still waiting. I waited so long, I decided to get up my own merch. So there, still waiting.
Wait a
for
minute.
the Gillmor Gang mug.
So I'm being castigated, I can tell, but I don't understand it.
Because you've been telling us we're going to be getting Gillmor Gang merch for like.
I didn't
years.
tell you that. She told you that.
Yeah,
I
where
want
is it?
that merch?
Well,
We've been
here's the
asking
problem.
for merch. We haven't been
Cups-
promised any.
The cups are too small. I like the one where you can put the pod in and push 12. And you do that with that and you have any creamer and you're in Lake Michigan.
Yeah, but we still have them and they're nice.
What the hell was that?
I
They're
don't know
wonderful.
what
They're
that
wonderful. They're too small. So, it
You're
has to
okay
be
to size.
approved by
You
the,
didn't want to talk about the size before I ordered it. Okay.
that's what she says.
Ah,
Okay, anything else?
No, that was way more than we were bargaining for. Actually,
Well, you brought it up.
I didn't bring that up. There you go.
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you, Tina.
And a happy Merry Christmas, because we won't see people before Christmas.
Yep. I'll be in,
Yeah.